How can we move forward without a word problem? We just can't. So let's look at one involving a quadratic inequality. The height, h of t, that's what we're going to name our function, of a model rocket in feet t seconds. So t is time, it's dealing with seconds. After its launch can be represented by the function, and so here we see our function, negative 16t squared plus 82t plus 0.25. During what interval is the rocket at least 100 feet above the ground? So in other words, we're trying to figure out, once this rocket is launched, what's the interval in seconds that it's going to be 100 feet or greater? So let's write our function like this to begin with. Let's say negative 16t squared plus 82t plus 0.25. We want to know when it is greater than or equal to 100 feet. But I've got to get this equal to 0 or greater than or equal to 0, and then I want to write it so where I can graph it on my calculator. So I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides. And so then I got negative 16t squared plus 82t. And then 100 minus a quarter is going to be negative 99.75. And that's going to be greater than or equal to 0. Now I'm going to flip this thing around and substitute y for 0. So then I could say that y is less than or equal to negative 16t squared plus 82t minus 99.75. All right, let's go to the calculator and let's graph this and then find the zeros, and that would tell us during what interval in seconds is this model rocket going to be at least 100 feet above the ground. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready, Freddy? Freddy? All right, here I am. So we've got y is less than or equal to, that's what I want. And then I'm going to input the function, negative 16, and I'm going to use x instead of t, x squared plus 82t, or x. Again, I'm substituting x for t. I got too many pluses in there. Let me get rid of one. All right. Minus 99.75. Now, I'm going to tell you, with that equation right there and those large numbers, the trickiest thing about this actually is getting a window setting where you can actually see the graph and at least see enough of it to work with. So let me show you what I did in Windows. Some of this was trial and error. I set the x minimum, remember that's time in seconds, to negative 1 and 5. And I chose negative 1 just so I could see the origin. I chose 5 because I was able to determine that to be above 100 seconds or more, I needed to, wasn't going to take long. And then I set y minimum to negative 1 again. That's just because, and here I put x minimum, tell me time can't be negative. And it's not going to go negative distance, right? And I set my y max. So let's see what our graph looks like. Okay, so I was able to see that. And I won't go through all the trial and error that I did, but I did go through some. Now, let's find the zeros. So I'm going to go second, calc or trace. I'm going to choose option 2, 0. And I want to get just below the x-axis, so I click there. Left bound, I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to go above the x-axis, which I'm above. I'm right bound, I'm going to hit enter. And it says guess, okay, there you go. So when y is 0, In this case, remember, that would be 100 feet. X, time in seconds, is 1.9862785, or really 1.99. So, after at least 1.99 seconds, this model rocket is 100 feet off the ground. Now, what about when it's coming down? Well, I want to go second, trace again. Again, I'm going to choose 0. And I need to move this cursor to the other side. And just so I'm moving it, and it won't take long. I didn't think. There we go. Now we're coming back down. And I want to be above the x-axis. Well, that should have worked. Let me hit enter there. Looks like I am above the x-axis. And now let's go below. Took a pretty good jump. Again, it's trying to find the 0. And guess, yes, let's do. And again, when y is 0, in this case, what that would actually mean is we're 100 feet off the ground, then time in seconds would be 3.14. So here's our answer. In our model rocket, we're going to be at least 100 feet off the ground between, from the time of launch, 1.99 seconds to 3.14 seconds. And shazam, there's our answer. That was kind of a fun little problem. It did take me a little while to figure out the window setting. That was the biggest trick. Sometimes you just have to do trial and error and try to figure it out.